Thank you so much for participating in these virtual cooking classes. Your support goes such a long way right now. It's great that we can all get together and all come together in a unique, new way. From the bottom of my heart, thank you. So before we get started in tonight's cooking class, we have a couple of housekeeping notes for you guys. To get the highest definition Trevor Bird and food photography in your kitchen, you're going to want to make sure you're on 1080p. Lower right-hand corner on a Mac or a PC, there's a little gear icon. Click on that, pick 1080p. On a mobile phone or an iPad, 3 dots, upper right-hand corner, click on that, 1080p. Right to the right here, there's a chat box. I will be in there live with you, so if you have any questions at all, any concerns, need to be coached, that's where I'm going to be, and I'm going to be trying to engage with you guys so that you can put all your questions and concerns in there. Underneath is the comment section. Once this stream is over, if you have any questions based on this class, you can throw them in there and we'll monitor them regularly, so we'll answer them. You're going to want to have a couple of things in your kitchen for this class. 1 is olive oil and 2 is cooking oil. Olive oil is not cooking oil. If all you have is olive oil, we're going to make it work, and that's okay. But for cooking oil, we could use veg oil, coconut oil, avocado oil, corn oil, peanut oil, anything with a very high smoking point. We generally don't want to use olive oil because it has a bit of a lower smoking point. The other thing you're going to want to use is kosher salt. I use Diamond Crystal kosher salt right here. I've been using it for 20 years. It has the best grain, the best flavor. So when you see me dump it all over the food and you think, man, that's a lot of salt, it's because it's this salt. Try not to use iodized salt. But if that's all you have, you can, just don't use as much of it. The point of this class is to make you more confident and give you insider tips and tricks on how we run restaurants, how we cook for people, and how we can really make our food program in our house come together in a successful way. So we're here to make you confident in the kitchen. We're not here to stress you out. We're here to just grow ourselves, our cooking skills, and become better people because of it. With YouTube, it's fantastic because you can pause, you can rewind, you can fast forward at any point. If you feel like it's getting too much for you or you can't keep up, I'm a professional. I teach this class so I can cook very quickly. Bonus points if you can keep up, but if not, don't feel bad about it. Press pause, cook at your own pace. These classes are also going to teach you how to cook stress-free for yourself, for your family, and when we can again, for a whole whack load of people. So this is really to give you the skills you need to be better. Subscribe, hit like, and share us on your social media channels. Tag at Fable Kitchen and at Chef Trevor Bird, and we would appreciate that so, so much. With that all being said, let's get cooking. What's up, everyone? We are about to start amazing cooking class to make you a little bit more confident in the kitchen. So just to get prepared for this class, what you're gonna need is a blender. We have this beautiful Vitamix here. If you don't have a Vitamix, any high-powered blender would be great. If you don't have any kind of blender, a food processor can work. And if you don't have that, we're just gonna make like a vinaigrette type sauce for your beets, but if not, that's totally cool. So have a blender on, preheat your oven to 375 degrees. Very important you do that right now, because one of the first things that we're gonna need to do getting right out of the gate is bake our brownie. And I think that's about it. But in today's class, we're going to be making a pumpkin seed hummus, which is a really good take on classic hummus. With charred beets, which are one of my favorite way to eat beets, and I'll teach you how to do that super easy. If you've ever burnt anything before, you intentionally want to burn something. It kind of goes against what your brain is thinking as it's happening, but it's definitely what needs to happen. I'm going to teach you guys how to cook an awesome corn and bacon risotto for the vegetarians. There will be no bacon in it. Just don't put bacon in it when I tell you to. And we're going to cook some fish. And for the vegetarians, we're not going to cook fish. We're going to cook some mushrooms. So the mushrooms are already cooked for you. You just need to reheat them up in the risotto. And then for dessert, we have some amazing vegan, gluten-free brownies. And I know that sounds so weird, but I promise you, they are some of the best brownies that I've ever had, regardless of their labels on them. As well, because they are vegan, they won't make you fat. So you can eat as many of these as you like and not feel guilty about it. So the first thing we absolutely need to do is get these brownies in, because the one thing I will say is that when these brownies are warm, they're not gonna hold together very well, and the flavor gets a lot better as they cool down. So try to be patient with these. Try to let them cool down completely before you eat them. But if you need to eat them hot out of the oven, you can do that too. So the first thing we're gonna do is grab a bowl just like this, and we're gonna grab a baking dish. I have like a banana bread dish, but you could use anything that you have that would be appropriate for baking brownies. The baking time is gonna change based on how thick they're gonna be, but I'm gonna use this one right here. Based on the ingredients I gave you, it should make a fair amount. So for the brownies, let's just go over what I gave you here. You have pureed black beans. You have maple syrup, vanilla, and coconut oil. If you kept this in the fridge, there might be a white layer on top of it. No worries, just put it in the microwave for 10 seconds, or if you don't have a microwave, just keep it in like a thing of hot water for like a couple of minutes to melt. And here I have salt, sugar, chocolate chips, gluten-free oats, and cocoa powder. The recipe's there in your bag in case you ever want to remake these. If you have that friend that's like, I'd love to come over for dinner, and you're vegan and gluten-free, and you're always like, oh, what do I do? And for some reason, whenever my friends come over like that, I always mess something up, because I do have those friends. So this is super easy. All we need to do is mix all of this stuff together. And you're just gonna go like that. And you can use a whisk, or you could use a nice big spoon. And we're just going to mix it until it actually looks like a brownie batter. So we're gonna mix that up. There we go. That's gonna go into our baking dish that you should have lined with some parchment. Now, don't worry if you don't have the parchment ready or anything, it's okay. You can put this video on pause. You can get your stuff together. Not a big deal to get organized. So I have my brownie batter in here, and I'm gonna put that in right now. Depending on how thick it is, it could take anywhere from 20 minutes to 50 minutes. You just want to make sure that it can dehydrate and actually cook into a nice solid mass. So let's get that into the oven. So for our brownies, they're in the oven at 350 degrees. My pan will probably take about 30 minutes. The minimum amount of time you want to put them on for is 20 minutes. So set a timer for 20 minutes. Check them after 20 minutes. They should kind of look cracked in the top and nice and kind of firm. As they cool down, they will get firmer, so keep that in mind. But with those black beans and everything else, you just want to make sure that they spend enough time in the oven. So 350 degrees, minimum amount of time. If you have a really thin brownie, is about 20 minutes. So check them every 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes after 20 minutes. Sometimes they'll take up to 50 minutes to an hour to cook, so be patient with them and just keep checking them. So congratulations, you already have one thing going here. How easy was that? The whole point of this class is not to make you stressed out. It's not to get you overworked up, so don't be nervous. Press pause if ever you get overwhelmed. Pretty easy and straightforward. The next thing we're gonna do here is we are going to make a beet salad. So here I have some beautiful charred beets. Now these beets have been roasted at 500 degrees for an hour and a half. That's as hot as your oven can go, full blast for 1 hour and a half. It sounds absolutely crazy, but trust me, it works, it's amazing. So if ever you want to recreate these beets, you honestly just take the whole beet, skin on, don't peel it, no oil, no seasoning, turn your oven to 500 degrees, and put your beets in the oven. When they are black and cooked, and you're like, oh my God, those are burnt, they are perfectly cooked. The outside should be totally black and crispy. You just take them out of the oven, and then from there, you let them cool down. And then when you want, you just crunch them, and then everything kind of falls away from it. And the skin just like crumbles off the outside, and you're left with really nice tender inside. You take a knife, just pierce your beet, make sure your knife goes in and out very easily. So for the pumpkin seed hummus, all we have here is two things. The pumpkin seeds and everything you need for the hummus is in this one package. You might have a bit of a smaller bag, maybe a container, but everything in here, the tahini, garlic, salt, olive oil, lemon juice, it's all in here. The only thing you need is this and this. So we're gonna go ahead and open this. If you have a pair of scissors, you can use those. If not, just use a sharp knife. All you have to do is dump this nice little hummus cocktail in there. Just crushed up a little bit of garlic in there, so we're gonna make sure we get all the tahini, all the garlic, olive oil, salt, everything gets in there. There we go. Now, the texture of your hummus might not look exactly like mine. There's a lot of contributing factors to the texture of your hummus. So we're gonna add this in. If you do not have a Vitamix or a Ninja and you're using like a hand blender or an older blender, it's not gonna be as thick as mine. It's gonna be kind of watery. Watery, vinaigrette-y, like you're just gonna use it more of a vinaigrette than you are a hummus, and that's okay. It's still gonna be delicious. Don't worry that it doesn't look exactly like mine. Not all hummuses and blenders are created equally. So all we do is put in bag A, pumpkin seeds on the base. We're gonna go like this, and we're gonna turn this guy on full blast. Now, if you don't have a blender that works that hard, it might not be as thick. So right here, you can tell it looks a little liquidy, but as this sits in the fridge and cools down, the fats in the pumpkin seeds will stiffen up a little bit and it'll get a little bit thicker. But it should be the consistency of a thick soup right now. Don't worry about it. You can use it as a dressing, so you're gonna toss this all over your beets. You can put this on a salad, on quinoa, on anything you want, and it's gonna be delicious. It's like a hummus dressing, a hummus vinaigrette. So if it's super thick, not like a hummus, it's good. If you do wanna turn it into a hummus, you could add chickpeas to this. You could add vegetables to this. You could add cooked carrots, cooked cauliflower, cooked beets. Do not add your cooked beets to this. Somebody does that every class. Don't do it. You're not making beet hummus, you're making pumpkin seed hummus. That's okay though. So even if you do add it, it's still gonna be delicious. There you go, pumpkin seed hummus. So now this stays good up into your fridge up to a week. Do whatever you like with it. It goes really good on toast in the morning. Again, your vegan, gluten-free friends are gonna love you for this one. So you can use it at any point you like. So now we have our cake in the oven, and we have our hummus made. So when you're making this hummus, you could also use any kind of hummus you like. You could use sunflower seeds. You could use cooked carrots, cooked beets. The pumpkin seed, the garlic, and all the other ingredients can remain the same. And you just need to put a little bit of water in there until it reaches the right consistency. So you know what, we could even, like we won't do this now, but if we wanted to, we could even plate this right now and it would be done, and we can serve it whenever we want. So it wouldn't really be stressful cooking at all. It would all be ready to go. So if we wanted to here, we could get this ready. We'll leave it until our risotto is almost cooked, and then we'll come back and plate this up, and then we'll finish off the rest of our dish. So we're gonna get going on our risotto here. Now with our risotto, we have a bunch of different ingredients. We have corn stock, we have dried rice, we have bacon, we have butter, we have corn puree, miso, and Parmesan. Risotto does take a lot of ingredients to make a good one. So we are going to use this pan right here. This is a nice, perfect risotto pan. We're going to put a little bit of grapeseed oil in there. And then we are going to put our dried risotto in the pan. Just like so. We are going to turn that heat onto medium high. So we're going to turn that on medium high heat. So what we want to do here is just toast our risotto. So we're going to put the pan on medium high, and we are just going to toast it till our rice turns golden brown, and it smells like toasted rice, and that will smell like toasted nuts. So we're going to leave that there. Now this is a really easy way to cook risotto. We cook it at about 3 to 1. That's 3 parts liquid to 1 part rice. And that will pretty much always guarantee you a perfectly cooked grain of rice. Everybody likes their risotto cooked a little bit differently. Some like it a little bit more al dente than others. So if you don't like that much, it's good to take your time with it. And that's where the Italians, they're very specific with it. So they only start off by adding a quarter at a time, constantly taste it, until you're actually happy with it. So right now we are just toasting our rice. So whenever we're toasting the rice, we want to make sure it doesn't burn. So that would be where we want to constantly stir it. As you can tell here, there's a little bit of oil bubbling away with the rice. It should look nice and bone. The rice should look like bone. Nice and white. Bone white, I guess you'd call it. And it should already start to smell like toasted rice. So you just want to lightly toast this. You don't want it to get too crazy. Now, if you would like, you could even add wine into this. If you're making a straight like mushroom risotto, it's nice to add some wine to it. We are making a corn risotto. So there's going to be a lot of corn, a lot of miso. There's going to be a lot of flavor in here. And even if we did put wine in it, the wine's kind of going to lose its magic with everything else in there. Plus, wine is really expensive. So when we're running a food cost in a restaurant, it's important to really be mindful of what ingredients you're putting in, because you want to offer good value for your food. Adding in too much wine gets really expensive really quick. So with everything else going in there, you wouldn't even taste the wine anyway at the end of the day, because there's so much corn, so much miso, and like miso and wine, probably is like one's going to out flavor the other. So you don't want to do too much here. My rice in this pan is starting to turn golden brown. Starting to smell like toasty rice here, like Rice Krispies almost. We're just going to take our cornstalk and we're going to add in a nice big dollop of that. Turn your heat down to medium high and just let it cook away. And we're just going to let it cook. And then what we want to do is, in professional kitchens, we take our risotto about 80% of the way. So we cook it 80%, we cool it down, and then when you guys order it to eat it, we just put it into a pan and finish it off with everything we're going to finish it off. So right now, we are doing mise en place and we're getting ready to cook for your dinner and cook for service. So if you had a bunch of friends over and you're making a risotto, this is kind of where you want to be. You just want to cook it with very little stress. And so you can cook as much risotto as you want ahead of time. Once it's fully cooked, you cool it down. And then all we would do is just finish it off with a butter, miso, corn puree, corn. Or if you're making a pea risotto, you could put peas, pea puree. I always like miso in my risottos. It pretty much goes with everything. It goes with mushrooms, it goes with corn, it goes with peas. So you can put all that in there. And we're just gonna cook this down. So as I'm cooking it down, I'm dragging my spoon through it, and it doesn't really look like we're trying to part it so that it doesn't look like, so it will actually stay in its place. And right now it's not staying in its place, so that tells me it's not ready. We're gonna add in another quarter of this stock here. We're gonna bring that up. That's gonna boil real quick in this high quality pan we got going on. So we're just gonna keep that cooking. And now as that's cooking down, we can take our time with that and we can start talking about cooking fish. So when we're cooking fish, you can either bake this fish or pan sear the fish. For the more advanced people, we're gonna pan fry the fish. For the people that just want to take this easy, learn how to make some stuff, we are going to bake the fish. So no way is better than the other. It doesn't really matter. They're both going to turn out delicious, I promise. But for this fish here, I'm going to pan sear it because it's more fun, and I want to challenge you guys a bit, and I think you guys should try the pan sear. But if you just want, like I said, if you just want to bake it, I'll walk you through the very basic principles of baking fish. So we'll keep half an eye on our risotto back here, and we'll prep up our fish and get it ready. To get the fish ready, we're just going to season it really well with a heavy layer of salt on top. So let's season it really well with a heavy layer of salt on top, flip it over. Get a heavy layer of salt on the backside of it. And now if you're baking it, you can get this onto a baking tray. So you honestly just put it onto a baking tray, a little bit of oil, and it takes 8 minutes to bake this fish. So 8 minutes on a baking tray, throw it in the oven, and it'll be ready. For the rest of us, we are going to pan sear this, and I'm going to teach you how to professionally pan sear fish and absolutely nail it. So we'll just come back to our risotto here. Taste your risotto, just so you know kind of where it's at. If you like it more al dente, if you like it more soft. Al dente means crunchy or to the tooth. So we're just gonna add in the rest of our stock here, and we're just gonna let that come down. Now, if you need to add in a little bit more water to continue cooking the risotto, that's totally fine. Just keep on adding liquid in until you get to the texture that you like for the risotto. That being said, you want to kind of undercook your risotto just a little bit so that it's not fully cooked when you go to finish it. But basically, as soon as this is done, this could have been done yesterday or the day before, or the day of. You don't need to do this right before your dinner party, but since I'm teaching you how to do this, you can do it right now. So whenever you're having friends over for a dinner party, you could always have this pre-ready, and then all you're gonna do is pan sear a piece of fish, and I'll show you how quickly we can actually finish your risotto once we have all of our proper mise en place done. So there we go. We just wanna cook this rice until all the liquid is gone, which is pretty soon here. We're just gonna shake it around. You just wanna constantly stir so the rice doesn't stick to the bottom of the pan. Because as the liquid leaves, your rice is actually gonna start to burn to the bottom of the pan, and we want to avoid that. So we're just gonna constantly stir here. Stir, stir, stir. So once we have all of our rice in the pan, there we go. Again, just try the risotto to make sure it's where you like it. If you want it more cooked, I'm gonna go like this. It's kind of staying at each one. So you could take this risotto off the heat right about now, if it's where you like it. If you want it a little bit more cooked, follow me, put in another, so your rice is like this. I'm gonna put in another about 100 mils of water. And we're just gonna cook that down one more time. And then that should be at the proper cook. Now don't stress about this too much. Even if you overcook the risotto, it's not gonna be ruined and you're not gonna ruin your friend's night. We're gonna put enough good stuff in there to make up for the mushiness of the rice, if that's the case. Just make sure you're not putting liters and liters of water in there. So again, we have our brownies baking in the oven at 350 degrees. We're gonna finish up our risotto here, and I'm gonna teach you guys how to pan-sear a fish. So we have our risotto cooking down here. It's almost gonna be done. And then once it gets to the point where you like it, and it gets to the texture where you like your rice, which for me is pretty close. Again, if it's not ready for you, add more water. I don't know if you can see that smoke, but it's pretty cool. The steam. So add more water in if it's not done. But if it is to your liking, you could take it off the heat. So let's just take a look at it here. It doesn't come back together. My risotto is to my liking, so I'm going to take that off and leave it to the side. Now that is the 80% cook of the risotto. Now, all we have to do is season the fish, finish the risotto, and take the brownies out of the oven. Let's go take a look at the brownies. My brownies are pretty thick, so they definitely need some more time. By the time that we make everything and finish everything off, those brownies will be done. So right now, before we finish our risotto and pan-sear this fish, we're just gonna plate up our appetizers. So those are gonna be ready to go. And then all we're gonna need to do is make our risotto, sear our fish, and we'll be good. So this is a really easy, nice, simple appetizer to make. All we're gonna do is take our pumpkin seed hummus. It gets a little bit thicker there as it cools down. And we're just going to put a nice little smear, nice little schmear on the bottom of the plate. There you go. It's almost like, with pumpkin seeds, it's almost like peanut butter. I love it. And then we have our charred beets. We have a little bit of basil and mint here. So I'm gonna take the basil and mint and just tear off pieces and just get it into, we can mix it straight into this jar here. And the little bit of lemon vinaigrette we're just gonna get in there. So we're just gonna take this, mix it up. And we're just gonna take a little bit of salt. Salt goes in everything. Just take a little bit of salt in there, and when I say salt, I mean like a nice big 2 pinch of salt. So that's a 1 pinch, 2 pinch, 3 pinch, 4 pinch. Just take a nice 2 pinch, get that in there. Toss it around. And then we're just gonna put it down. So there we go. There we go. And then you can just take the basil and mint and put it around. And there you have a beautiful pumpkin seed hummus and beet, mint and basil salad. This is a really delicious dish, super simple to make, and you can make these beets and put them in your risotto. You could put them in your salads. You can make a whole big batch of these, put vinegar all over them, and they'll be delicious to eat. So there you go. Pumpkin seed hummus, life skill, charring beets. You could char any vegetable like this and it's always really, really good. You will win all the time. So now you can take a short break. You can take it easy. The only thing we need to do now is wait for our brownies to finish cooking, cook some fish, and finish our risotto. That is like the mecca of the class right there. Multitasking at its best. So if you need to catch up at all, press pause, take it easy. There's no rush here. So whenever you're cooking mushrooms, a little bit of oil in the bottom of the pan, and you want a really hot pan. And when you cook the mushrooms, you want one single layer of mushrooms in the bottom of the pan. That's why we want such a large surface area. When the oil is smoking hot, I'm going to teach you a technique to not burn your hands. So here we have a good amount of oil, large pan. Mushrooms are mixed mushrooms to the side. We're going to wait till that gets nice and warm. And then as soon as you start to see smoke come off the top, the best way to do this so you don't burn yourself or hurt yourself is tip the pan away from you so all the oil slides down. And you just want to place that in the pan up top, and then you let it slide into the oil. So that way you don't put any product into a whole bunch of oil and then have it splash everywhere, and then it burns and hurts, and you don't really want to burn yourself. Hot oil is dangerous. A little bit of a cooking lesson here, safety lesson I should say, is a little bit of a safety lesson here is when you put oil into the pan, and if ever it lights on fire, the only thing you want to do is take it off the heat and put a lid on it. And don't look at it for 2 hours, at least, until it's nice and cool. If you've ever seen that movie Backdraft, it has potential to turn into a fireball, and I like my eyebrows and my eyelashes. So just take it off to the side, put a lid on it, and let it sit there. Now, I'm just seasoning my mushrooms with some salt. Go with a nice 3 pinch of salt. And you don't want to shake your pan too much. You just want to have your pan sitting there, roasting the mushrooms off really well. Maybe just give them like one toss every 2 or 3 minutes. You just want to get a nice sear on one side of the mushrooms. The other thing about mushrooms is that they shrink like crazy. So with these mushrooms, you get them in the pan, they're going to lose a bunch of moisture. They're going to shrink up, but that's okay. So we have these guys here, really high heat. There we go. We just give that a toss around. You can see how there's a nice sear on one side of these, and we're just going to leave it again for another 2 or 3 minutes. And now you can use it. This is how you can cook every mushroom. Every mushroom gets cooked the same way. Not too much in a pan, a little bit of oil and salt. If you cook every mushroom like this, it will be delicious. This goes for any fancy mushrooms you find in the forest. Definitely know what you're doing if you're going foraging. Even if you ate a poisonous one like this, it would still taste really good. And then you would die a terrible, terrible death. So don't go foraging. But just a little bit of oil, some salt, and you're always going to win with mushrooms. So the other thing is you don't need to cook them for long. You know, the most amount of time that a mushroom should cook for is maybe 5 minutes, 2 minutes searing each side. But you definitely, like a lot of resilient mushrooms like king oyster mushrooms, really meaty ones, lobster mushrooms, those get really, really well with like a good hard sear. And they even go really well in braises because they can hold their shape and stand up for so long. So we have our mushrooms here. We have a nice sear on them. And we are just going to take our mushrooms And we're just gonna put them into our bowl or whatever we're gonna keep them in. All right, guys, the last thing we have to do here is make our risotto and sear the fish. So let's get all of that together. I have the fish right here. I have the risotto and everything we need right here. So what we're gonna do is turn the risotto on medium-low heat, just for now. So medium-low heat for the risotto, searing pan on high heat. If you are baking your fish, put your fish in the 350-degree oven with the brownies and say, hey Siri, set a timer for 8 minutes. Mine should have went off, but anyway.
Counting down.
There you go. So set the timer for 8 minutes, put your fish in the oven, and we'll finish off the risotto. For those of you that are pan searing, come with me. So again, when we are searing fish, super high heat, you want the highest heat possible. A tablespoon of oil. So we want our oil to be smoking hot. Get your oil all over the bottom of the pan, and we want that oil as hot as possible. With our risotto here, we're just going to put in about 2 to 3 tablespoons of water. So 2 to 3 tablespoons of water in your risotto. Super easy. You just want about this much water. If you could just see it, it's just kind of just seeping out of the risotto. We're going to take our corn nibs. So we're going to take our corn nibs here and just get them in that pan. And we're just gonna heat that gently as we get ready to pan sear our fish. So we're getting this warm and ready to finish. So if you're in a restaurant and people are coming to eat, you say, pick up table 23, and 23 is you. So what happens is that we have our risotto kind of starting over here. We have our fish that's gonna get ready over here. And we have our fish right here, ready to go, seasoned, salt, room temperature, ready to go. So we are just going to wait until this pan starts to smoke here. Have a towel on you. Now, if you have sensitive smoke alarms, this would be a great time to have a clean towel to waft away the smoke that might get caused right now. We're cooking over some high heat. This is professional cooking at its best. So we are multitasking. We have our risotto here. That's getting ready to be finished. And we have our pan here. So my pan is just starting to smoke with oil. Now you want to be very careful so you don't hurt yourself. You have a pan full of oil. If you just push your fish in, it has potential to burn you. So what you want to do is tilt the pan away from you, put your fish in the pan, and drop the fish away from you. So drop the fish this way, so when it splashes, the oil goes away from you, and you don't go like this and then get the oil towards you. But anyway, keep the oil down so the oil's slipping away, and then when you want the oil to hit the fish, you bring it back, and there you go. So now we're gonna leave this fish on high heat, and now we're gonna turn up our risotto heat and finish our risotto as our fish sears in that pan. Now this fish is a pretty thin piece of fish. It's not a really fat one, so we don't really need to do much else except for leave that over really high heat until it turns golden brown. Now with our risotto, we are going to put our corn puree in. So corn puree goes in. All of this butter, we are gonna knock a big pat of butter in there. So that's about 2 tablespoons of butter. If I can get it off the lid, there we go. We have 1 ounce of miso. Now, if you're vegetarian, put mushrooms in now. If you are not and you have bacon, put bacon in now. And we have a 2 ounce thing of grated Parmesan, and that goes in. So now what we want to do is emulsify and stir all of this stuff into the risotto together and make it hot together. So we can take that You can turn the heat down a little bit on the risotto so it's not ripping hot. You just want to melt everything together, make everything warm. And we are just going to emulsify our risotto together. Now, if it's a little thick, we're just going to add in a couple tablespoons of water. And by a couple tablespoons, I mean like 2. Just to make it relax a little bit. So we have our miso, corn, bacon, or mushroom if you're a vegetarian. This will be a corn and mushroom risotto for the vegetarians, but we're gonna finish it the exact same way as we do everything else. Now for our fish, we're looking at this nice beautiful sear that we're getting, and it looks golden brown on the edges, which is exactly what we want. So we're just gonna leave that searing. Our risotto is done. The only thing it's missing is a nice big pinch of salt, so you can turn off your heat here. And if you're thinking, man, we use a lot of salt in this cooking classes, it's like, yes, you do, and that is why restaurant food tastes so good. So you're gonna add in a nice amount of salt, probably like a 2-pinch or a 3-pinch, a nice big fat one, and you're gonna leave it. With our fish, all we're gonna do is just check the underside of the fish. Look at that sear, beautifully golden brown, beautifully golden brown. Now we're just gonna turn that heat off, and we're gonna let the fish rest at this high temperature while we plate everything else to get ready. So the carry through temperature, this pan is insanely hot, so we are just gonna let that temperature carry through and cook the fish. All you have to do to test it is just push on it. If you feel it, the fish start to fall apart, it's cooked. That easy. So we're gonna take this risotto. We're just gonna take our pan. We're gonna put our risotto on the plate. This smells so good. So just divide the risotto between 2 pans, between 2 plates, I mean. I always like to hit the bottom of the plate, makes the risotto nice and flat. So we have that down. I'm just going to check on the fish. The fish is done. So again, all you have to do to check the fish is just push on it. When you feel the fish start to slip apart and start to fall apart, you know it's done. So we're just gonna pick up the fish. Put it on top of the risotto just like that. You have a corn, bacon, miso risotto, pan-seared fish. If your fish is in the oven, just wait until the timer is done. Take it, put it on. And if you have any nice little greens, which you will have with you, you just pick out the nice fancy little greens and just put it all around the fish. I always like to put greens on there because I think it's perceivably healthy. I feel like I'm being healthier if I have greenery and fresh spinach and little leaves of things. I'm like, look at how healthy I'm being as I take down 3,000 calories of risotto and butter. That's the timer for the fish if you were baking your fish. Thank you, Siri.
Hey Siri, stop.
Hey Siri, stop. So if you want to put a little bit of greens around your fish there, that works really well. And then that little vinaigrette that we were putting on top of the beets, this works really well to just drizzle on top of your risotto and your fish. Has a little bit of lemon juice in there. The lemon juice is going to cut really nicely through the risotto. And again, if you're just a vegetarian, just finish it with the mushrooms and that's it. You could put a little bit of vinaigrette on top. And as well, you could take a little bit of a lemon here and just squeeze a lemon on top of your dish, just like that. And you will eat a really nice meal, and you have just created a Michelin star restaurant in your home with corn, bacon, miso risotto, and seared fish. Yum. You made a risotto, be proud of yourself. It's not super easy. There you go. By the time you are done eating this, eating your appetizer, eating your fish and risotto, your brownies are gonna be done. You cool them down, you eat them. It's gonna be amazing. There's too much brownies there. If you take them all down tonight, it's gonna hurt. Don't do it, even though you might want to. Put them in your fridge. I personally like them better the next day. And again, vegan, gluten-free, won't make you fat. Eat as much as you like. So thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy your meals. Thank you.